Alright, hello everybody. So welcome to our lesson here, one of the last topics we're going to cover in psychological disorders. So today we're going to talk a little bit about addiction to drugs and alcohol. So our objectives and standards are to understand how addiction to drugs and or alcohol impacts individuals in society, and to identify treatment options for addiction. I'll take a moment here to look over the standards, please. And our desired result: how does addiction to drugs and or alcohol impact the brain? I have a couple of vocab words here. Psychological dependence. This is the use of a drug to an extent that a person feels nervous and anxious without it. So meaning that they have become dependent on it, meaning that they need it to survive, to function, to get through their daily routine, or whatever the case may be. So psychological dependence is when the brain is convinced it needs that drug or that alcohol to continue on with its daily process. Number two, addiction. This is patterns of drug abuse characterized by overwhelming and compulsive desires to obtain and use a drug. Tolerance is a physical adaptation to a drug that causes a person to need an increased amount of a drug to produce the original effect. So this is a person, maybe using more of a drug, or using a higher dosage of a drug, or using, more alcohol to get that quote-unquote high or buzz that they're looking for. So because they've become, so used to using a certain drug or alcohol so much that they don't get that sense of a high anymore, so they need to increase that to feel that same effect. And then number four is withdrawal. These are symptoms that occur after a person discontinues that use of a drug they have been using. So addiction in American society. Drug abuse and addiction has become a major problem in American society. There are millions of Americans who are dependent on drugs or alcohol. And this is due in part to what we were just talking about in vocab there, psychological dependence of a person on the drug or the alcohol, meaning that they need it to get through their day, or deal with their job, or whatever the case may be. They just can't function or basically breathe or live without it. So they just can't function physically or mentally without that drug or alcohol. Tolerance can also become a problem for people, since someone may increase how much or how many times they use drugs or alcohol to increase their chance of, again, getting that high or that buzz. Now, sometimes people may face withdrawal if they do not use drugs or alcohol that they are addicted to. Withdrawal symptoms can range from mild symptoms such as nausea, a headache, tiredness, to severe, such as experiencing hallucinations, and sometimes people have died from it as well. So the problems of alcohol. In the country, alcoholism is one of the most serious drug problems we face. Alcohol, as you may or may not know, is considered a drug, even though it's not like a pill or anything else, but it is a drug. And according to research, many teenagers have actually tried alcohol at least once in their lifetime in their high school years. So this is a problem, because eventually, if teenagers continue down that path, it can lead to serious problems in the future. Studies have also shown that there have been many car accidents and crimes that happen while under the influence of alcohol. And alcohol can have the following effects on people. It can produce blurred vision, slurred speech, perceptions can become distorted, meaning that, maybe somebody has had too much to drink and they may think somebody's arguing with them or giving them a funny look, and they're going to try and start a fight with that person when really that other person really didn't do anything wrong. So perceptions can become distorted in our brain. People can become unbalanced when moving or walking, stumbling, things like that. We can have slowed reactions with overuse of alcohol. Sometimes people can, such as maybe they're driving a car and they don't stop in time in front of a stop sign, or whatever the case may be. Or they think they're going, slower than what they really are. They're really doing 80 miles an hour instead of doing, 40. And sometimes alcohol can lead to unconsciousness and, again, sadly, sometimes death. So the stages of alcoholism, there have been many studies of alcoholism over the years. One of these was by biostatistician Elvin Norton Jelinek. I'm trying my best with his name. He was able to establish the 4 stages of alcoholism. The first stage of alcoholism is what we call the pre-alcoholic phase. This is when a person experiences pleasure from drinking alcohol, and they might soon begin to seek out events or opportunities to drink alcohol. For example, maybe they constantly are going to the bar after work, or maybe they're, looking to, every time they go to a friend or a family member's house, they're always looking to have something to drink. Typically, they use the excuse that it is used to relieve stress, that they're just stressed, and that's why, that alcoholic beverage or drink is helping them relax or calm down. And they will begin to develop a tolerance to alcohol at this point. So, again, that tolerance level with drugs is, maybe somebody else might need a limited amount of alcohol to get that buzz or high, but this person will begin to build up that tolerance. So now they're going to need more or a stronger amount to reach that buzz or high that they're seeking. Number 2, the predominal phase. This is the warning phase. This is when a warning phase begins. A person may experience blackouts. A blackout is when somebody drinks to the extent that they cannot remember what they did when they were drinking. There's certain actions they did, who they talked to, what they said. People will say, "Oh, I didn't know I did that. I'm sorry I said that. I don't remember doing that. I don't remember, fighting with you," or whatever the case may be. And that's a warning sign for, to keep in mind that if somebody you may know or that starts saying that a lot, "Oh, I don't remember, that," when they're drinking, that's a sign that maybe they're blacking out, and that's a cause for concern. Drinking also becomes a need instead of a want. People typically, adults will maybe enjoy an alcoholic beverage here and there, for fun or whatever, or they're out at a certain social event, but they don't need it. In stage 2, an alcoholic will begin to need that to function, or they need to have that in their body at least some point during the day. Number 3, the crucial phase. The person loses control of their ability to stop drinking, meaning that they'll begin to hide their drinking. They may keep a bottle at work, or they might, sneak it at home. They might, sneak it in their purse, whatever. And you might think that sounds crazy, but there's been examples of that I've seen, throughout my own life with, TV shows or reality, whatever the case may be, that I've seen people do these things and, and things like that. They might try to change their drinking habits. They may seek out higher percentages of alcohol. They may seek out ways to get alcohol from somebody else if it's not in the home. So, again, seeking it and needing it. And then number 4 is the chronic phase. This is when a person suffers consequences, such as the loss of their family. Their family may leave them, their friends. They might lose their job because they're drinking. The abuse of alcohol usually starts at the beginning of the day, meaning the person, when they wake up in the morning, they typically start drinking. And then a person can also develop physical or mental disorders because of it. Now, factors of alcoholism. There are both environmental and genetic factors that can cause alcoholism. In terms of genetics, the risk of becoming an alcoholic is higher in people if they had a family member that was an alcoholic. Their mother, their father, their grandparent, maybe an uncle or an aunt. Typically a parent, though, is where we get most of our genetics from. So if a mother or a father was an alcoholic, that person has a higher chance of becoming an alcoholic themselves. If a child is raised with alcoholic parents, they learn to become distrustful, they learn to become over-dependent, and they learn to be stressed. Being in that environment is stressful for anybody, a child or an adult. So these elements can lead to the development of alcoholism as well. Now, there are some addiction treatment options out there, and you may have heard of some of these before. In terms of treatment for drugs or alcohol, there are different successful options. Behavior counseling, speaking with a therapist or a psychiatrist. There's other organizations out there, such as Alcoholics Anonymous or AA, that is like a support group, or there might be other support groups for people if they're struggling with addiction. There's rehabilitation centers that people go to and they stay and live at, for 60, 90 days or whatever, and, they're kind of taken away from those negative elements that could make them continue to be an addict. And then there's also medications, prescriptions, medical devices that can help as well with addiction treatment. Some people will go on, anti-alcoholic pills, things like that, or other pills that will make them sick if they use the drug. So it trains the brain to not want to use that drug because of the prescription, your body will become nauseous or dizzy, so it kind of weans you off of that drug. Okay, so our closure. How does addiction to drugs and or alcohol impact the brain? Think about how people may become addicts. Think about some of the consequences of it, and things like that, and I'll help you out answer your question. All right, so have a great rest of your day or night, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.